The wizard Liz is living an actual nightmare. She was a girl boss. She was a manifester. And for a moment, it seemed that she had it all. She had riches. She had millions of followers. She had the boyfriend of her dreams. She was expecting a baby. And everything became upside down when she and her boyfriend, Landon, I called him Brandon in my last post, and her broke up. And she realized he was not the one. And what this wake up call is for women in this situation is that women are not entitled to custody of their children. And I'm telling you this as a family law attorney in New York. Just because you had a baby, nursed the baby, carried the baby, are attached, as all mothers are, especially in the beginning, to their baby, in the end, it really doesn't amount to much under today's custody laws. And women need to really hear this, and men need to hear it too, because one of the number one lessons in family law is be careful who you have children with. You can even survive a marriage with someone, but once you bring children into the picture, actually you bring the children into any relationship, you are stuck with that other parent, probably for life in some ways. It's not just until your children are 18. That person is going to be in your life because, of course, they're going to be in your child's life. So what are we to do with Wizard Liz's situation? She is now stuck with a malevolent co-parent who is, and to make matters worse, she has a terrible immigration situation. She's actually out of the country while the person that she's had this child with actually has the child. The father has primary physical custody, which is normal under our custody laws and our immigration laws. She wasn't allowed to take the child out of the country. Right now, she is venting on social media. She very much feels like a victim, and maybe she is a victim of this man. But the fact is, you cannot take a child out of the country without the consent of the father. And he's being advised by lawyers just as she is. And on that note, she needs to stop talking. She needs to be quiet. She needs to stop engaging with this man, with her followers. She's giving evidence on her videos that is actually helping her ex in a potential custody battle. In one video, she admitted like she hit him or something. She needs to stop. And if she were my client, I would say, zip it. Be quiet. Because in all likelihood, this is going to be a 50-50 custody situation when she comes back to the United States. And this is the reality check for moms. It almost always ends up in 50-50 custody when you have a father who wants to be active in raising the child, or it could be a same-sex couple. When children are born into marriage, they presumptively are the legal child of that marriage. This father is very invested in being a parent. Maybe he's doing it to mess with her, but maybe he really wants to raise his child. And it's very important that people realize that fathers that spend time with their children, that ask for custody, they get custody a lot of the time. There was actually an article in this week's Wall Street Journal that fathers are spending 6 more hours per week with their children since the pandemic. Fathers are stepping up to raise their children, and mothers are stepping up in their careers. And you really can't have both happening without the other, right? If the mom is advancing in her career and the father, because of technology, is working from home or making a decision to spend time with their children, it's going to have an effect if the couple breaks up. And now I want to talk a little bit about breadwinners. This is really a warning to the breadwinners, the moms in this case. Wizard Liz is a breadwinner. She has the money. And if it ends up with 50-50 custody, she is going to end up paying child support. There is just no way around it. She is the moneyed mother, not the father. She's going to have to pay child support if her income is much higher than Landon's. So what does this all say? This is really saying that society is changing and the laws are catching up. And money is a big factor. Even if she had a prenup in a situation like this, in New York State anyway, prenups cannot protect you from a custody situation. You cannot agree in advance that the mother will get custody in a prenup. That prenup will not be enforceable. So lots of lessons here for this woman. I want to assume that she's really hurt by the situation, that She really does feel devastated that her child has been taken from her. And I have to say, this is where it's really not gender neutral. You know, you could have a breadwinner dad, and it's not the same as with a mom, and I'll tell you why. Mothers are not the same as fathers in the obvious sense that if she carried this child, and it's a newborn, she gave her body and her mind and carried this baby, and now probably really is missing this child because there's a whole hormonal aftershock that occurs after pregnancy and when children are very small. And it's all part of how children and mothers attach. Of course, fathers attach as well. And I want to be as gender neutral as possible, but let's be honest, it's not always the same. What do you think about all of this? I am so bothered by this whole Wizard Liz situation. It's been a rainy weekend here in New York. Today is Memorial Day, and I've been really spending a lot of time on TikTok, and I'm really wondering what all of you think about this situation.
So there's this woman, right? Her name is Wizard Liz, and from my understanding, she gave like relationship advice, and classic story on the internet, she didn't live her life following that same advice, and it seems like she's now co-parenting with a man who she married after 3 months, and he turned out to not be a good guy and turned out to be a total narcissist and is making co-parenting very difficult. And from my understanding, again, and I know very little, she did a lot of stuff to try and protect herself because she had money before they met, and she was under the impression that he had money and he really didn't, and he's back on Hinge. I'm seeing all this drama. The bottom line is, women out there, and I literally mean any relationship you see online, please take with more than a singular grain of salt, okay? The best relationships that you see in the entire world, none of them are online. They're never touching anything online. They exist quietly in their little hobbit homes, in their little corners of the world, just hanging out in their little breakfast and dinner nooks, talking and reading and doing normal stuff. They're not posting about it on the internet. All of the happiest couples, I promise you. If you're hearing about any couple on here, including myself, if you're hearing about a couple or you're seeing too much of the couple content, all that stuff, I'm not saying they're not in a good place, but just keep in mind, this is not a natural thing for any person in any relationship. It's why when you hear about these relationships blowing up, one person ends up being more of a narcissist, one person this, you hear two different sides, all this. So Wizard Liz, I'm sorry you're going through that. I'm more sorry for your kid. And sorry, I'm at the basketball court, but I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
I've been asked to comment about the whole MJ Grey thing, so I'm just going to make it really short. Exactly what happened to, what's her name? Wizard Liz. That's what's going to happen to MJ Grey. And that's no hate towards MJ Grey. I hope that it works out, but I can foresee the future. And exactly what happened to Wizard Liz is what's going to happen to her, because women like her, when they center themselves in society, you know, radical feminist, don't marry men, marriage is slavery, extreme, I hate men, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, they will be victims to a lot of manipulation and abuse because there are like sadistic, manipulative, abusive, narcissistic, misogynistic men who will specifically scope out women like MJ Grey because they'll get satisfaction from destroying her. Okay? And I think she said that this man found her on TikTok. There you go.
So let's say the Wizard Liz was manipulated, scammed, however you want to call that, by her baby daddy. I think she fell in love, but you know, when you fall in love, you're being manipulated a little bit as well. You know? I think we can all take a lesson there, which is we all have a weak spot. We all have something that if the person touches that spot, if the person speaks to that spot, then we fall into the trap. Some people, they want to seem good, so they fell very easily into certain traps because they want to be seen as people who have good souls. They have something about being good, about being godly, etc., etc. Some people like Liz and other women, they like to think they can dominate men. They like to think that men can eat in their paw. They like to think they have the power, the control over them. So if a man acts like he's being duped, acts like he's being dominated, then it works. This is how scammers work. They try to see what's lacking in your life, what's lacking in your personality, in your psychology, and they try to fill that void or to talk to that particular issue. Some people, they are saviors. They need to save people. So being the damsel in distress or something of that sort will always work on them. People are more sensitive to certain behaviors or certain concepts than others. And that's how scammers operate. I think the Wizard Liz got exactly what she wanted. I think deep down she's a lover girl, and I think all she wanted was a husband and a child and building a family, and I think that's exactly what she got. Now, she might not be aware of that, but her unconscious sure is. She keeps talking about money, right? She keeps talking about money before, she keeps talking about money after the London thing. Money is a screen. Money is a tool. Is a tool for her to gain fame. It's a tool for him to seduce her. And it's a tool for her now to regain her composure, because deep down she's hurt, not because he lied, he did not have money, but because he actually cheated on her. A lot of sprinkle girlies, a lot of women who want providers and who think they're so good at manipulating men. A lot of them are actually deep down lover girls. It's a way to protect yourself. It's the way to control things, to measure love as well. It's easy when you can count the gifts you're being bought. You don't have to think too much about it. You can just count. You can measure it. And that's nice, and that's so reassuring in a capitalist system. I think Shira 7 loved James, and I think that's why it worked. And I know some people like to say, yeah, but Shira 7, she's a financial advisor. Again, what do we know about that? Yes, she says things. We all have a persona on social media. I do as well. But you see, what makes you think that the Wizard Liz is actually a lover girl? She has so much anger. I told you guys that she keeps screaming. She screamed before. She's still screaming. She's always screaming at us. There is so much rage coming from this woman. I am actually surprised that people like watching her, because there's just so much rage. I mean, and this is not fun rage like HRH collection. I do, some people who rage can be quite entertaining. No, there's so much rage. There's so much pain. I mean, it's crystal clear the whole money thing was just very symbolic. Something that she hides behind.
The Wizard Liz was targeted, and I don't usually talk about other creators on this platform. I basically just stick to my stuff, but she was targeted by this man, and I believe we need to talk about it. This man studied her. This man knew who she was before he randomly met her at the airport that day. He knew this woman pretended not to, and she had no idea what she was really working with. Landon's ex-girlfriend actually reached out to Wizard Liz to kind of warn about who this guy really was, and she didn't listen. That in itself, obviously in hindsight, maybe she should have.
Okay, so everyone's been talking about the Wizard Liz, and I have some thoughts. She needs to give Landon that baby. She needs to live her best life in Europe. She needs to sell her stuff in America and understand that for a couple of years, she's just going to have to emotionally disconnect. I'm sorry, that's the only way that she's going to have some semblance of like an upper hand, a win or something. Let that man raise that baby by himself until he gets tired of it and just calls you and says, just take the baby. I don't want to have anything to do with either of you. The reason why men reproductively coerce women and try to have a baby as fast as possible is because they're counting on your motherly instinct to be the reason why you're always going to be connected to them. It's not easy, and I'm not a mother, so I cannot, pretend that like this is advice that anyone needs to follow. Like, I'm just saying, you're going to have to disconnect from your instinct, from everything, because that is the only way that you're going to get away from this man. And she's in a position where she is in Europe right now. He would have no jurisdiction over her. That is the only way that she's going to get away from him, because he's not going to stop. There's a reason why within like months of knowing him, she was pregnant, right? Because they know that this is how they get you. I'm sorry. And by the way, people may think I'm insane for this, but like, even if I was with a partner, I would seriously not, like, I would consider having a sperm donor, because if there's any baby that I have, it will be my baby. There's no splitting custody, there's no nothing. You can be a dad, but it's my baby, and that's the only legal way that I'm able to do that. Child support out of the question. It's my baby. Everybody booed Jan when she did this to Michael, but she was right. Can you imagine if she had to deal with Michael for the rest of her life? Please. It's the smartest thing she ever did. If Liz wants to have some semblance of peace in her life, she's going to have to give up custody of that baby and let him raise that baby until he gets to the point where he's just like, here, take it. She's in Europe. It's not like he can get child support. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but like he would have no jurisdiction over her. It really sucks, but this is the natural consequence of that. I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts because his ex did tell her that all of this that he's doing is exactly what he did to her, and she basically was just like F off. So I understand why people are looking at her sideways and are making their comments and stuff. That's besides the point. She needs to emotionally detach from that baby, her son. It's unfortunate, but like she's never going to know a moment of peace as long as that man can use that child to control her. They're counting on our motherly instinct to do things like this to us, right? It's unfortunate. You have to let it go. I'm sorry. I know this is controversial. Not saying she should take it. These are just my thoughts on this situation, because it seems like he is determined to break her down mentally, to make her miserable. And it's really hard to see. And people are talking about she should have taken her own advice. This proves that she was even more right. Like, I think that this timeline that we give ourselves to like have kids and to do all of these things, it seems like she's from like a traditional country slash background. Like, all of these things make sense that she turned to this. Like, I never, the first time I heard about her was when this whole thing happened. So it's not like I even really know all of her content or anything like that, but it really sucks. And that's my opinion on it.
When it comes to Wizard Liz and that side of feminist TikTok with the MJ Grays and even the Shira Sevens too, babe, you know, women that give advice to other women about how to beat men at patriarchy or how to win at patriarchy in some way. When looking at the situation Wizard Liz with what's going on right now, after giving that advice to have a man come along and just destroy her whole fucking life to the point where she can't even see her child, I want to speak from experience and also study and let you guys know you cannot manifest your way out of oppressive systems, babe. You as a woman cannot win at patriarchy against men unless you're willing to do the things that the predators within those predatory systems do. And one of them things is abandon your kids, boo. Not give a fuck that you can't see that child. You must be willing to do the things the predators do within that predatory system, and that is not just exploit men for handbags and having them pay for school, a mortgage, or putting your name on a deed. You must be willing to do what the predators do within the patriarchal system, and that is harm women and children too. Okay. Winning at patriarchy is not getting a man to say he loves you and take you on trips, make sure everything is paid for. That is not winning at patriarchy, because at the end of the day, there is still levels of your humanity that you must give up and trade to access his resources. He's still winning, babe. The patriarchy is a violent system. Patriarchy is a violent system, and you must be willing to be just as violent too. But to who? Women and children, boo. You must be willing to exploit women and children and not give a fuck about kids. You must be willing to harm women and children, okay, in the patriarchy to win. Violence upon women and children that I'm hoping a lot of y'all women aren't capable of, boo. The best thing you could do besides dismantling the system of patriarchy is survive as prey. And here's my thing about what I don't like about some of the advice that I'm hearing from these types of feminists, okay? I find it to be dangerous because it feeds women a delusion that you can somehow be a predator. And what you will do as a predator is feel comfortable around other predators too, who are men, the real predators in the patriarchy. And the thing about predators in patriarchy is, unlike you and get deluded into the fact that you're not a prey, they won't, babe. They can smell you a prey. And the closer you get to them under that delusion, the easier it is for them to devour their prey. Because you're unaware, because you think you can be a predator too, babe. And you cannot. You cannot, not under patriarchy. You cannot win at patriarchy as a woman. Your best play is to survive as prey or dismantle the whole system, babe. But I promise you, you will not dismantle the system of patriarchy by accessing other levels of oppressive systems like capitalism and exploitation. I do see the attempt in some of the delusions, and I'm hearing from certain feminists that speak on these things, to exploit groups of women, though. But at the end of the day, none of this advice that I'm hearing from any of these women will ever, 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 ever grant us freedom from patriarchy. Not you, not me, not even them. Okay? Have a good day.
Let's talk about Wizard Liz, because these are two principles in play. What will make you laugh will make you cry. And when you try to destiny swap, i.e. wanting somebody's life, feeling like they shouldn't have what they have, thinking you better than them and you should have what they have, will give you all of their problems times 10 and none of their blessings. All of your blessings are going to go to them. Let's not forget that Liz helped Landon sue the ex. Let's not forget that. And everything that she preached to women not to do, she did it. So that means you knew what not to do, and you did it anyway because you felt like you were special. And let's stop comparing Shira and Liz, because Shira will never accept the Dusty out of validation.
And now when I try to manifest a husband is when I actually got married. And
because honestly, that's when I decided to have kids, when I was like, okay, I'm married now.
And I realized right away, like, I'm gonna marry this girl, this is it. You're the answer to my prayers. And so, yeah, we eloped.
A husband is the easiest thing to find. I also had a lot of people ask me to marry them.